absolute pleasure to introduce today's guests. Alexis Corona, Joseph Chavez, Victor Arreola. Hello, everyone. All right,
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
good to see you. It's lovely to see you. I'm going to
Sure.
introduce each of you here quickly, and then we'll get into the good stuff that everybody's here to learn and hear from you all. So Alexis Corona, his pronouns are he, him, and he is my dear colleague as our digital communications associate for Family Equality. In this role, he manages and supports all aspects of digital communications, including social media, email, and website content. He is in charge of developing strategy, ensuring growth, and increasing engagement. In his previous work, he launched several campaigns that connected members with organization services, raised visibility, and amplified voices for Latinx, Black, AAPI, and LGBTQ plus communities. Welcome, Alexis.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see you all wherever you're joining us from, and to my people from Latinoamérica. Hola, ¿cómo están? Mucho gusto.
Brilliant. Love it. And Joseph Chavez Jr. was born, raised, and is currently living in Southern California. I hear not too far from Alexis. He is a senior public affairs representative at the Metropolitan Water District, where he has worked for over 34 years. That can't be. That math doesn't work. He is married to his husband, Victor, and they just celebrated their 10-year anniversary this past December with their 3 children. Joseph shares, our family dynamic is living in a resilient and exciting time with lots of newfound challenges on how to raise children in a world that is struggling with equality. Our Dos Padres living journey will be on how to prepare our children to be in the forefront of this long time in the making, movement making, sorry, words today. To lead by example with character and empathy. It is important to share through family pride and authentic transparency because representation and inclusion matters. We are all perfectly imperfect and deserve happiness. It took Victor and I over 40 years to find it, and we don't want others to have to wait that long. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you can't be married, be parents, have a family, and experience that blessing. My wish is to share our story with others and spark hope. And you all are going to love hearing from these two folks and Alexis on this as well. So, and let me share a little bit about Victor. Victor was born and raised in Southern California. He shares father duties with his husband, Joseph, at their home. And Victor's pride and joy are their 3 children. He works for California Intercontinental University, where he helps to transform adults' lives with the empowerment of education. Victor shares his thoughts on how Joseph and he decided to become more visible and even take up activism as a family to fight for equal human rights and family equality as 2 dads, or Dos Padres, LGBTQ plus family. We can only hope to make Victor shares, we can only hope to make a positive impact and contribute to the ongoing movement of family and human equality. Our goal is to remind everyone that we are all the same. Making a difference in society is why we are actively visible, as we believe strongly it makes the world a safer place. We were terrified to come out. We were terrified to share photos together on social media, and we were terrified to one day make a documentary, a passion project, to prove that love conquers all and how discovering transparency in life can become a life-saving resource for anyone who is struggling with who they are and what a beautiful life they deserve and dream of living. We need to get some t-shirts printed. You guys are just dropping here, so this is great. Beautiful. Okay. Well, thank you and welcome. We're so glad to be here with you all, and I'm really excited to dig into the good stuff here. So, as we think about social media and families, It's quite likely that each person on this call has their own journey, experience, and thoughts about social media. Today, we're discussing the powerful role social media plays in the lives of families, especially for LGBTQ plus families who are looking to build connection, visibility, and support. Together, we'll discuss how to harness these platforms to find community and share your story safely and intentionally. So let's just jump right into it. So,
That's all right.
anyway, Joseph and Victor, you say your story began on social media. So can you tell us about that?
So it actually started with a mutual friend of ours that thought we should meet. I did something that I never do or did, I should say, and that was work the nerve up a message, but not like asking him out or just kind of saying, "Hey, our mutual friend says that we have things in common, that we should be buddies. What do you say?" So that I guess made him comfortable, and then he replied, and that led to text. But I did approach him through Facebook. Private messenger first. So as much as I think I'm not into the social media thing, at least before we started posting, us as a family, right? I guess I really was because we met on Facebook technically, and when we posted, we were gonna have twins on social media. That when we got married, so social media has been
we've been in a relationship with social media.
Yeah,
it's given us the confidence. I think both of us we come from Latino families, very macho Latino families, and in our culture, it's really hard to come out. And everybody has their own coming out challenges and stories. But for us, it delayed us living our authentic self into our 40s. We didn't come out until our 40s, and to be able to connect with somebody with the social media, maybe it was kind of like a bridge, to meet him in person. But like Victor shares, social media has also been a place where we kind of announced to our families that we were a couple. We started posting pictures together, going out to eat together, and the whispers start and the perceptions start a little bit. But I think the beauty of social media is that you can take control of your narrative. And for me, and I know for Victor too, it's so liberating to let your heart finally breathe, your authentic self and your truth. And when you walk into a room or a family event or just walking around the world, to be in your authentic self is something to be proud of, and it is a healthy space to be in. So, as we dive a little bit more with our relationship with social media, it definitely was there from the very beginning. And
we've had some fantastic feedback. I mean, nothing but positive, lots of love from families. God, people I haven't talked to since high school, old coworkers, old employees. It's just nothing but great things. And the one thing that we all had in common is that we did know somebody that was struggling to be in their own skin and just talking about it, so we were able to open up that topic in our homes with them, and just not necessarily because we're learning as we're going, but just share our experiences, what we thought, what they may be thinking or feeling, how they should handle certain conversations or certain things. So, but yeah, we've known each other for about 12 years now. We were married 10.
But and on the flip side, there was some negative reaction to our being transparent as a couple. There were family members lost. There were friends lost. There were neighbors lost. That in truth be, the loud drowned out more of the negativity that came through. But there definitely was a short list of loss. But living your authentic self, why would you want that around you? And as we dive a little bit more in social media, we'll share a little bit about making sure that the space that you hold, whether it be in person or on social media, is a place of positivity and a place of community. So as we share, I can't help but share how overwhelmed I am to see all the different representation from across the country, countries and our country on the chat right now, because that's what we were looking for. That's what we were looking for on the early onset of our relationship. So yeah, a decade later, here we are having a discussion about it.
And at the same time, we've also met individuals that have helped us, through our journey of being married, having children. how to deal with certain situations, maybe at their school when they come up, at the park when you're looked at a certain way. We met some really great guys and girls, through social media. So all that was super new to me because my social media was just people I knew, but it was really hard for me to just start accepting and befriending people that we didn't know. But what came with it was just
beautiful community. To be able to open ourselves to somebody we've never met in person was a struggle on the onset of social media, but that's how we built our LGBT community. You know what I mean? They are some of the most beautiful, supportive, friends that we have, extended family that we have, and we haven't met some of them in person. But it's all about encouraging each other and giving each other, that love and that pride and engage. It's a social media platform to engage with positive responses back and forth. And then there's also side messages when you're having a hard time and you need some support. Those connections are also super valuable.
The thing that I find pretty interesting, awesome actually, is that it's not just on being two dads. It's just we're also discussing topics about parenting with people who aren't gay.
Yeah.
Just certain situations that come up.
That was
every family
share that somebody had reached out to you that is a straight woman that reached out, a mother that reached out.
Yeah, that happens often.
A straight beautiful friend of ours, she's a mother, reached out to Victor for some advice, on parenting.
And that's happened pretty often in just conversations too, like at work or with people you've grown up with. I think it's also a reminder to them, like, we are just regular parents raising our
parents, trying to raise little humans, right? To leave the world a little better than we found it, with empathy.
Just worried about taking your kids to practice or getting them dropped off to school in the morning and lunch and all of the things that make us all kind of boring, really.
Yeah, right.
And messy and tired, and exhausted and all that good stuff.
And I do want to say this before the hour comes and goes. Just the feedback, the way parents at school, for example, make us feel welcomed, and it's just been, like I said, nothing but positive. Very few negative, but super positive reactions from the people around us, and so that just is a reminder that why wouldn't we share the wealth, of our journey, like our experiences with others. I would have loved to have had a profile like ours to see, like, hey, it's possible to come from a Latino family, a macho dad. I'm first generation. My parents are from Mexico, and to think that I actually got married, had children, like my father is helping us pick up the kids from school and drop them off. It's just major. Like, if you met my dad, like, I feel like any race that has a macho dad would be able to relate to my father. And we all have we can all relate to each other. Like, and just remind ourselves that in the end, we just want to live a happy life, just like you guys, right?
Yeah. When we met, we shared stories about our youth, and one of the most the biggest connection I think that we both had is that when we were very little boys, we both knew that we had the desire to be fathers one day in our hearts. But when society tells you that the love that you have for another person of the same sex creates a road that does not lead to parenthood, you can fall into depression, you can fall into anxiety as a young person. So like Victor's saying, it's important for us to kind of create something, a resource that we needed when we were younger. We all could look back and say, who is that? What is that thing I needed, or that resource, or that person I needed when I was younger? And us as we're older adults, we can then become that resource that we needed back then, because it's tough when society doesn't give you a road to fatherhood, because I knew as a little boy, we knew as little boys that we were gay, but we want to be dads. So what is this? God doesn't make mistakes. How can this not be? How can I not get to this point here? And that's when I met Victor, and he dreamt bigger than me. And he said, yeah, he's going to do it. You know what I mean? And he started putting it into making, a living prayer. And that's what we're living right now, a living prayer.
Gosh, that's beautiful. Alexis, I'd love to hear. I know you have done so much work since you've come on board at Family Equality with regard to our social media and building relationships with content creators like Joseph and Victor and many, many others. What advice do you have for LGBTQ people or parents or otherwise who might want to start their social media journey and being more visible? Are there misconceptions about social media that you want to address? Are there tips you might have? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, everything that Victor and Joseph just shared are like really good starting points for people that are wanting to start their social media journey. So I definitely say, like, for people that are wanting to start on social media, definitely start off with the question, why? Why do you want to start social media? Do you want to connect with other queer families in your area, your state, the country? Like they mentioned, is it, country, is it support that you don't have in your local area that you like to get from others? Are you wanting to educate your own family about what it's like to be an LGBTQ plus family? Or is your page going to be set up just for educating allies instead of other queer families, right? So when you sort of think about that, definitely think about the story that you're wanting to tell. Could it be your own transitioning story if you're a trans person? Are you wanting to share your adoption journey, how you secured, legal adoption for your kids that you had just welcome to your home? So there's definitely like a lot of questions that you should ask yourself. The other one is definitely looking for gaps, like Victor and Joseph said. Like sometimes when we sort of look at social media, you think that there'd be so much out there, but sometimes it's really hard to find the specific example that you're looking for. So I often tell people, be the wish, be the representation you wish you'd like to see. Like Victor and Joe just mentioned, like are you looking for two gay Mexican dads that are amazing role models? There's room for everyone. Are you wanting to look for someone that offers, hairstyling tips? Because sometimes, most LGBT plus families are multiracial, transracial. So is it a tip that you're wanting to learn, specifically about hairstyles that you might have no idea about? So I definitely do think there's room for everyone. There's so many stories that are new, but also similar that could be told on social media. I'd also definitely say that, setting your boundaries for social media is also really important. I think when you're first approaching social media, there's so much you want to share, but are you like sometimes you have to ask yourself if you're comfortable sharing that about your story because you never know what might people might use and expose you for, which we'll cover later about, how to safely share your stories. But remember that you can make your page public or private, so you have control of what people will see and what people won't see. Um, so yeah, some misconceptions are that you don't need 1,000 followers to share your story. If you have 10 people that are following you, that's 10 people that have never heard of LGBT plus families or are wanting to learn more about it. So you have all the support that you can need on social media. But definitely, if you're aiming to be an influencer, I definitely say that you're more than welcome to do that. Everyone can succeed on these social media platforms. Another thing is that you don't have to be an expert about being an LGBTQ plus family. You can definitely create your social media account to learn from others rather than you having to educate about others. It could be advice that you're seeking for your family or how to navigate, how to tell your kids how to discuss what it's like to have queer parents for their friends
Correct.
at school. So there's definitely that. And then not everything has to be about being a queer family. I think sometimes people forget that if you are a queer family on social media, not every single thing that you post
That's
about,
true. That's so
oh,
true.
yeah, not every single thing that you post has to be about being queer. It's you can definitely post about, the Super Bowl or even acknowledging with what's going on in LA right now. It's you don't have to post about being a queer family 24/7 because much like we say, if you take out the label LGBTQ plus, you're still family and families can be boring, families can be fun, families can be, controversial. So I definitely say like you don't have to post anything. And then lastly, the last misconception is that social media has to be public facing. You don't have to share your face or your photos to be on social media. There are other platforms like, Discord and Blue Sky that all are just like platforms where you don't have to expose much about your family, but you can create these online groups like virtually, and still be able to connect with others. There's Reddit that has great threads about like parenting about for queer parents. There's also a lot of things that you can find, specifically Blue Sky. There's a lot of starter packs that you can join and be part of those conversations. So you're just actively being part of the movement as queer parents, even if you don't feel comfortable with sharing photos or your family story because everyone has a different comfort level. So definitely those are the things that I like to sort of address, but also share with others who are wanting to start their social media journey.
And that's it, Alexis. I have to say that the comfort level, I mean, you go at your own pace, you share what you feel comfortable doing. I have to tell you, it took me longer, I think, than Joseph to get comfortable with posting. I remember even telling him, like, we're confusing this for a family album. Like, what are we doing? Like, but when, again, you just see the good it's doing by sharing, and then we're just able to control what we post. And again, you also mentioned we're not experts. We're regular dudes from the San Gabriel Valley in LA. Just learning as we're going how to raise children, how to be married. We're a regular couple. We argue. I get on his nerves, and the kids drive us nuts. But in the end, we're always grateful to have each other and to be part of this family, right? So again, I've had people mentioned a couple of times that I know, your family's not that perfect. I'm like, no, it's not. And if you have children, if you're married, it's not. It's not what we're trying to portray, is that we're picture perfect all the time. But we do want to share nothing but positive things, because I go on social media to learn, to get happy, and see stuff that makes me laugh or makes me feel good. I don't want to see negative stuff, especially in this day and age. So why would I ever post anything like that?
We treat social media like it's our home. If you were to come into our home, what would you see? Baking, cooking, hanging out, celebrating milestones. First teeth out, maybe the first, fell off the bike and band-aid on, whatever it may be. But it definitely has to be a safe place, and it's definitely okay to share with us, is because representation matters, and there's discussion, and there's families being shared out there. And when you don't, all of us that are in the LGBTQ plus community, it's important to see ourselves represented in stories and experiences out there. So us growing up didn't see that too much. So yeah, we're gonna add to it. We're adding to the discussion. We're pulling a chair up to the table, and representation matters. And just to chime in a little bit on this before we go to the next subject, is that with social media, I think it helped calm our confidence a little bit when our kids started growing up. So as we have twin boys. We had 3 cribs in the house at one time. They're a year and a half apart. Our daughter's 12. Our boys are 10 right now. But as they got older, they started leaving our presence, and they started being by themselves at school or at daycare. We weren't there to kind of to shield them. So I think with us and other LGBTQ families that are sharing on social media, it normalizes, and it makes the world a little more safer, because there's a little bit more understanding and knowledge wrapped around an LGBTQ family. And yeah, it's not always with the flag. It's about everyday stuff. You know what I mean? It's not always about gay stuff. It's just family stuff, because love makes a family.
Something I did want to point out that we learned along the way was learning how to post certain things. So, for example, before COVID, we're huge on parks. Like daily, we go to parks. But we learned to kind of
the parks were about getting the kids tired before they got us tired.
Yeah, but we also
and that backfired every time.
But we also learned to post when we got home, not while we were there. Just
for
the
good
safety.
Point. Good point. So for those who are a little bit nervous about giving location, yeah, share that.
Or posting in the front yard, but not really showing our address, just to be a little safer. If someone
license plate, location, school name, you get a little more confident as you go a little further. But if that's something that you're worried about, and you feel that can kind of go ahead and help ease that anxiety a little bit, just be mindful about posting after your event, if that's something you're concerned about. We kind of exercise that a little bit sometimes. Sometimes we're a little bit in the present going live, but again, it all depends on a case by case. So just know that you do have that option if that's something that you're concerned about.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's an important piece of this conversation, is balancing visibility and authenticity with privacy and safety. So you want to make sure, especially with kids, make sure that you're doing everything that you need to keep your family safe. So tell me a little bit more about how you balance that, wanting to share your story and be that example for folks, and also making sure you're keeping safe. I like the little tip that you had about just learning to not divulge where you are in real time necessarily all the time, you know.
I mean, safety first always, especially with children, right? So we've entered a new chapter where sometimes they don't want to be in the picture or want us to post something, and we have to respect that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just being open to how we're feeling as individuals in this house. So I might even say like, Joe, I don't want to post that, or Victor, take that ad on that. You know, like, so you know, we're fine, you know, doing that with each other, just communicating throughout the posts and the years, right? So again, we're learning as we're going.
Yeah, but I think also too is that we try to keep posts as far as kind of inspiring, maybe something that we were seeking before we would share now. You know, a lot of times we'll go out and we are present at community events, you know. So we utilize hashtags. We utilize hashtags to connect with targeted targeted engagement, I would say. Um, you know, rainbow family, hashtag rainbow family. And it connects you. The hashtags connect you. They're positive hashtags. And with safety in mind, we're connecting with community. So it's not just a post sitting by itself, but it might have a post of rainbow family, to that family, love is love, just different mindful hashtags to connect us and help us grow our community. Because sometimes as you're just getting started in social media, you're kind of wondering who else is out there like us, you know. So with the utilization of a hashtag, you can press it and boom, your community just grows, and you just kind of get to connect a little bit more with other same-sex families or singles.
And I have to say, Joe's our hashtagger. I really don't. But great things have come from him hashtagging. You know, we have done some very cool things in the last 10 years. If you look at our social media page on like Instagram, like we've been on billboards, magazines, great pride parades, and it's all come from that. People private message us from the hashtags, you know, and we're on somebody's radar, and it's just kind of taken off so nicely. And we're not a couple to wonder what if, so we're kind of saying yes to what feels right. But we're having a great time, and along with these cool events, we're meeting these awesome individuals. So we are growing our circle of love. You know, it's just becoming this huge, beautiful family. So again, hashtag the communities, the organizations that you think you could relate with and be comfortable with.
And then, not to get too political, too, you know, there's a political hot climate right now. And yeah, we have our stance and our views of, you know, administrations or policies and things like that. You know what? And we like to have our finger on the pulse of what's happening. As a parent, you want to know what's happening in the world. But for us, and again, it's case by case, we won't let that populate our regular feed. You know, it's going to be our home, our social, our digital home. You know what I mean? So those kind of posts, though there's something that we are definitely keeping track of and maybe frustrated with that at times, you know, we will find a positive spin to it. You know, I mean, we'll find maybe an activity we can do with the kids. We did this great activity during the Black Lives Matter movement.
It was during COVID.
During COVID, Victor and I are probably ones that would like to go out there and, you know, and activists and, you know, go out there and peaceful protests and things, but we had little kids in the house
and senior citizens that we lived with as well. So Joe reached out to this awesome individual in New York,
Jose Roslin.
New York dad. He sent over a picture that he used his kids, and we used that. The reaction with the kids coloring it, I wish we would have recorded that, like the
I recorded it.
We did.
I recorded it. It's on our social media.
Yeah.
So real quick. Yeah, the wording. What it is, it's called the Broken Heart Project, and it's a heart with segments. And the challenge is to sit down with your family and get different colored crayons representing all skin colors. And the kids would then pick up a crayon representing all different types of skin colors and then fill in and complete the heart. And then the way we tied it into our social media, into our LGBT community, is that we connected the three kids' heart with a rainbow.
And then we put it in
the
front yard, yeah.
Because we taught the kids, you stand up when somebody else is being pushed down. You know what I mean? You stand up for that person, you know? So utilizing activities like that.
Sorry, that's our dog.
Yeah, sorry.
The mailman's here, I think.
You know,
This is real life right here.
it's a real thing right now, yeah. And the kids in the back room. But utilizing activities and projects and then sharing them on social media, that's a great way to connect. And when we're feeling kind of helpless, you know, in this world we live in, you know, coming up with great activities. If you search on YouTube, I've done some, you know, activities that have to do with equality or kid activism. You know, there's lots of fun stuff you could go out there. And when you sit down with the kids, it starts to ignite conversation. It gets them off the digital tablets, and it's just a way to discuss it. But the great thing about this is then that maybe you can kind of share some of those photos on social media, you know, because that's how we got inspired. So we've come up with some activities too, and now we get to post them, and we've gotten you know comments back like that's a great activity. I'm gonna try that with our kids, you know. And it's a community, it's real community.
But that particular activity I thought was awesome, you know, and we're grateful to that guy Jose because he shared that with us because it does, like Joe said, bring up certain topics and we're able to discuss
Hard
that
topics.
with them. And, you know, because when you really think about it, they are hearing the TV in the background.
They are.
It's what's going on. As much as we try to not expose them so much to it, you know. So it's a good time to really sit there and talk and just explain what's going on in the world and how we're handling it, how we should, and you know, I feel like it lets them sleep better at night even.
Yeah, for sure. Gosh. Well, the dog's found somewhere to go. Yeah, I only say that because my dog is in his crate taking a nap right now. I knew that would happen with my dog barks at everything. So Alexis, talk to us a little bit about how social media can help LGBTQ plus families feel maybe less isolated, especially those families who might live in communities and areas that aren't LA, that aren't in the valley where you are, that are maybe there's not a center, there's not community, there's not a parent group. How can social media maybe play a role in making that connection?
Social media can be really helpful for those who don't have that support, like in their local areas. I think we mentioned, you know, you can connect with others across the country or even across state, not state, country borders. You can connect with people that are from like in other families. I know when I connect with influencers, I'm connecting with influencers from all sorts of countries, from Canada to Mexico to Spain to Europe to Germany. I have so many people that like often reach out to me asking, you know, how they can connect with others, which I often reference our LGBTQ plus parents and families Facebook group, which is a Facebook group for queer parents, but also just queer families. We recently updated the definition of what an LGBTQ plus family is, right? So often people would think that I mean, it's two queer parents with two kids, you know, but a queer family is a lot more broad than that. It could be, you know, two parents who don't have kids. That's a queer family. It could be a parent who has a queer child. That's a queer family. So, you know, definitely it helps you connect with others who may not look like the typical queer family that you're thinking of. It can also connect you with others that might be that look very similar to you. It could be ethnically wise, linguistically wise, culturally wise. So I think that's also really amazing because sometimes people live in different states. For example, in Iowa, I have no idea who lives in Iowa, but I'm sure if you live in Iowa and you're looking for other families that, you know, are of Hispanic descent, you'd want to reach out to those families on social media. And so you definitely want to look for that representation that you're missing on social media or just in your local areas. So it's really great. You can also just connect with other families, depending on family journeys. You can connect with those who are just beginning their adoption process or are looking for a donor, a surrogacy donor. Or even some, although this might be a little not too of a happy subject, but divorce, right? Navigating custody, which is often not necessarily that talked about in the LGBT plus community because oftentimes we like to keep it very bright, but there are people that are going through divorce and having to navigate custody. So you definitely want to find others that are going through that or have gone through that who could, you know, give you a little bit of advice of how to go through that, especially when talking to your kids about it and what that might mean. Um, but social media is definitely a powerhouse to find groups, Facebook groups, um, influencers, different centers, LGBTQ plus centers. If you don't know where your nearest LGBTQ plus center is, who could connect you with services, I do recommend typing into your Google search bar center link, and you can find the nearest local LGBTQ center that is closest to you to connect with them, because oftentimes they have groups or virtual groups that you can join that connect families that aren't necessarily in the area, and you can definitely do that. And we have two virtual support groups, people who are starting their fertility journey, but also one for trans parents who connect. You know, a lot of trans parents, I meet a lot of trans parents that talk to me about how grateful they are that that our virtual support group has brought them together, which is always really nice to hear that we're always bringing family together. But also, you can also just be someone that starts your own support groups. I've seen so many people on Instagram, which I believe their Instagram handle is called Parent Together. And that person just made their own virtual support groups to connect other queer families. So it's really amazing what you can do with social media. You can look for people near you, or you can start your own, right? I think that's really amazing. You can start your own Facebook group. You can ask people to join in your area. You can ask to join, you know, certain Latino Facebook groups that you want to be a part of. So I definitely do think social media is really, really powerful, and it's all in the way that you use it. Definitely play around with it. See what you can find. Like Richard and Joseph mentioned, hashtagging is a great way to start if you want to start with hashtags to find others. Don't limit yourself to just your area, because you never know who you might find, you know, across the country that might be in a similar position and might look identical to your family. So I definitely do think social media can be really helpful for those that feel isolated.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's such an important piece too. You touched on this, finding others in your community, the broader community who have intersectionality that may match yours, and then why that's such an important piece, especially right now. I feel like that, I mean, it's important always, but uh, having the opportunity to really connect and find those people who understand truly without you having to do a lot of extra explaining. So,
Yeah,
um,
Tanya,
yeah.
if I could just share that, I came across a very cool profile a while back, and then I started following it. I haven't seen it come up for a while, but I signed up. But we signed up. But it was for gay individuals who basically had their family turn their backs on them. But it was to kind of like if you didn't have somebody to walk you down the aisle, like if your father said no, if you wanted to maybe just show up that day and walk them down the aisle. But of course, I mean, you probably warm up to them and talk to them, you know, before. But yeah, there's groups for everything. But I thought that was fantastic. That was like thinking outside the box there, because how many
Yeah, I think
individuals, you know, don't probably feel lonely on certain days like that.
yeah, I think I've seen maybe there are multiples, but I think I saw one that was stand-in dad or something like that, or stand-in family. Like you can
Yeah.
connect with that group. Speaking of, there are a couple of things. Please remember to put questions if you have questions in the Q&A. I do have a couple of questions. There's one technical question folks have for you, Joe and Victor.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking if you use a VPN for your
What is that? Sorry. A what?
a VPN. So,
Are we old? We don't know what that means.
well, that answers.
Alexis, help me out.
Is that like Botox?
No, VPN is
I love it. Okay,
Do you
we'll
get
say
Botox?
yeah. The answer is no.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Okay,
Let's
and
Google
Let's
it.
Google it
then
real quick. I want to know what a VPN is now.
we're
Let's
good.
search for something.
We'll all be Googling after, right? Um, and then also, a person asked, how do you balance privacy of your kids and your family with the posts you make?
So the balance on part with me would be is that is going to be the balance for us is would be and the mindset that I have is that if we're out in public, we're visible, you know. we're visible. So the part for me being okay with sharing stuff is because we are probably sharing something in a public setting. You know what I mean? And the monitoring of feedback or comments that we get, whether it be for something that we're maybe a little bit more private, like a birthday party or home. I think it's a discussion you need to have within the family of whether or not you're going to be visible or not. And it's something that it's a deep conversation that Victor and I had, whether or not we were going to share photos. And we decided that we are. We decided that we are going to share pictures and milestones and just everyday family stuff to be part of the discussion, to be part of the inclusiveness of what a family looks like. And families look different ways. And in order for families to look different ways and to be visible, you have to share. So not everybody may feel that way. We feel like we want to share, but like Victor shared earlier, some opportunities came our way, which were kind of fun. We got sponsored. We got to work with Nissan. So Nissan created a Pride campaign called what is it called? What was the tagline? Drive with Pride or something like that. I forgot what it was, but they featured us and the kids, and it wasn't like it was so much like it was a gay thing. It didn't say these are a gay couple and this is that. Yeah, it was a Pride campaign, but it was two dads walking to their new Nissan Rogue car with three kids and a beach ball at the beach, advertising their new SUV, their new family SUV, right? And without sharing or being visible, how could we make sure that LGBT families, get to be in commercials like that? Because us as parents, and when I say parents, if there's anybody here that's on this call right now that's inspiring to be a parent, or that has a parent role model, like a role like a godfather or a uncle or an aunt, I'm talking to you too. You know what I mean? Because those are the children in our lives. But in order for them to see themselves portrayed in the world, I think that's so important. So again, it's case by case, but us as a family have decided to go ahead and I guess cross that line and share. Yeah.
Yeah. And just for the record, Bessie has answered what the VPN is, so you'll have to take a look.
What is it?
I can't wait to find out.
Virtual private network. I saw something, but I still don't know what that is.
And then Tracy also mentioned that it's called Stand in Pride, the group, the stand-in dad or
okay. Yeah.
relative that you might want, or mom. So thank you all for engaging us with that. I want to touch just a little bit on negativity and hateful comments. How do you deal with it? What do you do?
I mean, it's happened.
Well, at first when it happened, Victor wanted to jump in the screen and find out who said that. Right? It's just it was a stirring thing. How dare someone come into our social media site and drop some negative thoughts?
But it was more of a curiosity, like who has the nerve to do that, right? Yeah. And it was new to us, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't really get mad. I don't get mad anymore. When somebody doesn't agree with the things that we do, because it took me years as the gay guy to feel comfortable in my own skin being gay. So how can I expect somebody else to just get it overnight or with one reel or a post or it happens. We don't really I find that we don't really have to reply to them or say anything because other people kind of step in.
And you know what? And we do keep our space clean. This is a space that has our family and pictures of our kids. So if there's something that's not cool on our comment section, it's deleted. Our house, you
deleted and blocked because
you have to do housekeeping. Okay, so with the social media account, you do housekeeping. You make sure that it's a positive place and that there's not going to be negative or any kind of arguments or stuff going on. What I do want to share is that we were part of a campaign through my work, the Metropolitan Water District, and we got to share. My work has been so wonderful in inclusion that they created a campaign about how the employees and their families what they're doing is to save water, and they offered Victor and I a spot on it, and all it said was, had Victor and I like this. I think we were like this, and it said, "We teach our children by, using California native plants, they can save water." That's it. Didn't say we're gay. We're a couple. Blah, blah, blah. The comments underneath were, "I didn't know pansies were gonna save water." And it was just, up with this grooming, and it was just a lot of negativity under there. And then, like Victor said, there was some people saying, "What are you doing? What's wrong with you?" You know what I mean? And there was this discussion and this upstir, and all we were doing is trying to say conserve water. So that's a platform that we allowed ourselves to be on that we didn't have control on. You know what I mean? And it hurt to read some of those things. But if you consider the source and take a look at some of the people that are leaving comments, they usually don't have a profile picture. They usually don't have at least one photo of something joy or any kind of happiness on it. So, consider the source when things come like that your way. You know what? And you know what? Take the higher ground. And don't back down. Like, those times where, okay, we maybe we should do less. I don't like the way it's coming. No, we're holding ground, and we're going to continue to do our thing.
But you know what, Tanya? It's also expected. I mean, we can't live in this bubble either. We expect it. So.
But good. It's like good. Stir the pot. You know what I mean? Because you can't get the sickness out without knowing that it's there. So you do it with authentic, in an authentic way, and you kind of put your shield up. You create a shield. We even tell our kids that too sometimes that they come home. One of the kids came home, and they have heard something. You have two dads, or in a negative kind of tone. And Dad, I put my shield up because he doesn't understand that what we have here, and that families come in all kinds of different ways. And love makes a family, right, Dad?
And come to find out that little boy had no dad, so he was probably jealous, So it's just, again, we just deal with it.
Everybody's somebody from a hateful place is probably coming from a place of hurt,
Yeah. And Alexis, you deal with this with our nonprofits, Family Qualities channels. Can you talk a little bit about what you do and how you manage that as well? I know I see those notifications come in. It just makes me sick sometimes. So.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, those comments are unnecessary, and honestly, we don't welcome any of that. So what we typically do is just sort of like let other people in the comment section do the advocating for us, because sometimes they are like your support system. Like they will, fight these people online, and I think it's so amazing to see all of that. Yeah, and so they help counteract the negativity, which is always really helpful to know that it doesn't just always come from queer families. It could be from allies. I think that's also really amazing to know that sometimes allies are your most powerful support, because they could just show, what it's like to be an ally of a queer family, and that's always really amazing. We also just set up filters. So, a lot of social media platforms now, you can set up your filter comments by keywords, or you can just disable the comments if you just don't want anyone to comment about anything negative. But definitely block, delete, and protect your peace. There's no need for families to be reading any of that unwarranted negativity, because I mean, what good does it bring? But also, definitely take breaks when needed. We don't have to be constantly be reading these comments. And I think, much like what you mentioned, reframe the hate comments. Like, I think sometimes we think that it's because we actually did something negative, but no, it just proves that your story is reaching a lot of other families, and you just have to look at it. It's like, why did they comment about this? Oh, are they mad that we made it to a Taylor Swift concert and they didn't? Sometimes you have to reframe, the hate, and like, sort of think about why they're commenting. Like, are they jealous about something? Do I have something that they don't, that they wish they like to have? Sometimes you might even get hate from closeted people because they haven't fully embraced themselves.
That's very common.
That's very common. I have to tell you, that's what I tell myself when I do come across something negative. I'm like, they might be thinking differently.
They're coming next year. They're coming from a place of agitation.
Who knows what they're going through?
You give them a little grace, and you continue to be your authentic self with no apologies. It took us a long time to get here, no.
But then they're still blocked.
Yeah.
There we go. Because it's just taken out. But I mean, thank God for our beautiful allies out there. definitely got our back, and and we got theirs. As the LGBTQ community, when we pull together collectively, we're pretty powerful.
Yes. Yes. And we've got to remember that we are powerful, right?
Yes.
That's the thing. That's for sure. Um, this hour flew by. I don't know how.
I know.
I am not surprised. I knew this. We have so many questions we didn't even get to. I would love to just end, just if you can give a short-ish answer, because we don't have a lot of time left. But what do you see as the future for social media and maybe your role in it or with it? For everybody here.
Yeah, I'll jump in really quick because I had this down on my notes to make sure that I talked about this as my closing. What's important for me is that we capture LGBTQ history. Our history is being attacked, it wants to be erased. A lot of our history happened with people not able to come and live in their truth. So a lot of history wasn't, collected. So I think as I reflect back and on how we're going to talk today, is that social media now has become a, a, a beautiful resource to capture our history. In the last 10 years, social media has captured more LGBTQ history than ever before. And I'm talking about celebrations, wins, losses, struggles, pushbacks, families, family equality, gays with kids. You know what I mean? It's to reflect back on the last 10 years, how wonderful that we have this social media platform that has been capturing so many different stories in so many different ways that it would take a lifetime to for all of us to connect with them all. So I think let's be proud of who we are. Let's continue to use social media to capture and tell our stories and our history.
I'm all, yeah. That's my input.
It's like scrapbooking almost, you know what I mean? And you go back, it's like even when the memories pop up, gosh, 2020 was hard, but there was some push through. There's stories of resiliency out there, and it can't be captured if you don't share.
So the struggle is real. It's going nowhere, but it's awesome to have this great tool now
and this great community. Mm-hmm. We are community. We are family.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Alexis, would you like to add something about what you see as the future?
Yeah, I just hope that there's more representation in the future. When I'm sort of thinking about like media and social media that I consumed, I don't think I've seen a telenovela with like queer actors or with a queer story, which is something that I love to see. I would really love to see, more queer films, more queer stories being told, like, just mentioned, not just history, but the ones we're about to tell that will be history, right? So I definitely do wish that there's more representations because sort of when I look at the past, back on YouTube, when YouTube was the main social media platform, most of the coming out videos that are on there are from white YouTubers, Connor Franta, Tyler Oakley, Troye Sivan, Ingrid Nelson, Hannah Hart, they were all white, right? So I definitely would love to see more representation in all spaces, not just that, but also, trans voices. I would love to see a telenovela with trans people, with more trans films, like trans people of color. I think their stories are really important as well. So I definitely would love to see more of them just anywhere I go. Reality shows, I would love to see them. I'd love to consume all of that. So it's definitely just thinking about everything that I've consumed, rewriting that, but just filling it in with all queer people. And so I would really love to see that. And I would love to see people in campaigns and, a lot of great stuff that I really wish our people make it out there and succeed.
Alexis, you bring up a great point. So the thing that keeps me going, and I have to be honest with you, you just touched something that I really didn't think I was going to talk about. But in the past, being gay has been frowned upon. It's all been negative. It's been AIDS, people dying, people being discriminated, fired, killed, kicked out of their families.
Yeah,
so
it's always a tragedy.
That is my ammo to just pass that uncomfort of click and post. We have been asked a couple of times to just do certain things, and I get nervous and I don't want to do it, but there's no way I'm not, because it's like I'm almost kind of in my head like thinking that you got to be that
You got to catch
that gay guy in the novela, right?
But it's also the torch of generations before us that have pushed forward. You know, all of us here on this call need to pick up that torch and continue to march forward. You know, there's a rocky path that has been paved for us. You know, and it gets smoother a little bit. You know, and there's turns and pivots that we need to take, but we got to continue, and we have to give kudos to all the generations of path that didn't have the luxury to even have this conversation that we're having today.
So to answer your question, Tanya, I think it's just to have social media be a bigger beast, even where like in a positive way with many topics like this, right?
That's great. Well, we could go on for probably a couple more hours easily, but we've come to the end here. So I just want to remind everyone, please, and thank you all so much for joining us. We're so glad you could be here and be part of this conversation. So as you think about what you need to do from here, what you can do from here, find your allies, stay connected, create community where you can. Follow Joseph and Victor on social media. Someone asked for your handles.
I dropped them in there. But if you go to Family Equality, I think you can find it on our flyer post too.
Yes. We'll be sure everybody has that. So I just want to thank you, Alexis, Joseph, Victor, for being part of this call today. It's been heartfelt, inspirational, and fun too, even better. So we thank you for your work, your balance, your persistence, and hope you and your family have just a wonderful week and
happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Thank you to the audience.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Much love. Have a beautiful day. And again, thank you for just having us on today. It means a lot.
Well, as this concludes our series, we thank Brazelton Touchpoint Center so very much for this opportunity. And we look forward to more to come. Take good care.